I'm Cora. Just like a lot of artists, I like drawing, but I'm not satisfied with my own art. So I've decided to restart my art journey and learn everything again from the beginning. Anatomy is something. Maybe you hate it or maybe you love it. It can seem pretty daunting to learn, and most people would consider anatomy as something fundamental. Okay, maybe not everyone. I'm not even sure what a fundamental is at this point, because I swear to God, everyone has their own definition or opinion on what a fundamental is. Whatever. Point is, people recommend that you learn anatomy. But why? Let's say that you draw a cute anime girl. Do we need to learn anatomy so you can give her a hyper-realistic body? Of course not. It's to make your characters feel and look more believable. The amount of anatomy knowledge that you need can depend on how realistic or stylized you draw. The further that you move away from reality and start doing stylized art, the more you can start playing around with it, making anatomical details disappear or overly exaggerating them. Alright, come on you damn JPEG, it's time to study anatomy. You said you wanted to stop procrastinating, but that was an hour ago. There's likely better ways to study anatomy than the way I did. Here's how I went in. I started with the bones. I didn't draw a hyper-realistic skeleton cause I'll rarely ever do that. And if I did, I'll likely just use a reference anyways. I tried to find the overall proportions, the overall shape of some of the bones, and finally, the parts of the skeletons that are more visible on the outside, also referred to as the landmarks of the body. After that, I studied the visible muscles of the human body, their overall shape and size, and also which bones they are attached to. I mostly studied anatomy through books, YouTube videos, and websites. For books, we got Andrew Loomis's His and Heads book, which had some nice tips here and there, and Elliot Goldfinger's book on anatomy. I mostly just skimmed through them. There was just so much stuff that I already knew or stuff that I would just likely go find a reference for instead. For the videos, Mark Burnett made a video briefly going over the human body, and I also watched a bunch of Proco videos, some Draw Like a Sir videos, and also X-Skill Art Tip videos. The things that I used pretty often was the websites psychotbody.com and a male anatomy model made by Mark Burnett. Psychotbody was convenient and easy, allowing me to click on muscles, pinning and isolating them to see where they're connected, and also see their names. But since this model wasn't really super detailed or muscular, I used it along with Mark Burnett's anatomy model. Would a free model in Blender have been better? Maybe, but I was just too lazy to get Blender. There's also this user on Twitter and Pixiv with some really great anatomy tips and references. The overall style that I'm striving for does have noticeable anatomical details, so I can't really escape it. I've procrastinated for way too long on my anatomy study, and as always, don't use my videos and notes as a full guide for how to draw. These are just my notes that I'm sharing. So here we go. Here's some of my notes that I took for my legs and feet study. Let's start with the overall length. From the greater to canter, this part of the femur sticking out and down to the very bottom makes up about half of your body. If you split this part into half, this right here will be the bottom of the knee. Firstly, at the top we got the femur, our thigh bone. It got this sort of neck and ball sticking out near the top. The ball attaches to this socket thing here at the pelvis, allowing for leg movement. On the side we got the greater trochanter. It's the widest point of the skeleton's hips, and muscles will be attached to it. At the bottom, we got this little kneecap here, also known as the patella. From different angles, we can see that this part is pretty big, and it also curves a little bit. For the lower legs, we got the big tibia here and the fibula. Together they make the ankles, with the ankle of the outside being a bit lower than the ankle on the inside. In a neutral position, right here at the tibia, it curves a bit inwards, which can be visible. The legs together in a neutral position, the femur actually goes a bit inwards. A notable function of the legs is the knees. Let's see what happens when the leg starts to bend. Both the tibia and the patella will slide along with the big femur part. This will in turn affect how the length and proportions look. The front of the foreleg will appear longer due to the femur, and the femur will also appear a tiny bit longer as well, now that the patella sits right below it. Then altogether they create another plane. I've seen a lot of people not knowing this, and they end up making the knees look too sharp. First, the quads. The quad muscles is composed of 4 parts, but one of them is hidden behind the others and will only focus on the visible ones. All of the quad muscles are attached to the patella, by the way. The vastus medialis on the inside, it has this kind of teardrop shape and it's connected to the femur. The rectus femoris in the middle, this one is not connected to the femur, but on the pelvis, and it's a bit higher than the others. Then the vastus lateralis on the outside, and it attaches to the great trochanter. For the abductor muscles, these muscles are rarely individually visible, so I'll keep it short. The furthest back one is mostly covered by the hamstrings. They all attach to the femur, except for this filler down here that attaches to the tibia. Even if each of the abductor muscles aren't particularly visible, together they will still create a noticeable form. You can see that they kinda bulge out a bit. Separating the abductors and the quads is the sartorius, going diagonally across the leg. Behind the legs we got the hamstrings. The hamstrings are composed of 3 or 4 muscles, I'm not sure. I think one of them just has 2 heads. 2 parts below and 2 on top. We can see that all 4 parts connect to the lower leg. The tendons here can be visible on most people, even if they aren't bodybuilders. You can also see the split happening between them. Now for the glutes. We got the gluteus medius and the gluteus maximus. Both of them are connected near the pelvis' iliac crest and the femur. The gluteus medius though is attached to the greater trochanter. Together with a lot of fat, they make the butt. And for the side, this is going to be a mouthful. The iliotibial band tensor fasciae latae. There's a high chance that I pronounced that wrong. It's mostly tendon, and it attaches from the pelvis, covers the greater trochanter a bit, and connects down to the tibia. Now for the lower leg muscles, and I will likely only draw it a few times in my life, so I'll only cover this briefly here. From the front, all of these muscles together will cause a curve on each side. The curve on the outside will be a bit higher than the curve on the inside. And overall, due to the muscles, the legs kinda have this S-like shape since the tibia is pretty exposed at the front. At the car here, I don't want to disturb my neighbors because it's nighttime and the walls are pretty thin. I almost forgot to add this. At the back of the legs, we got the gastrocnemius and also a pretty big tendon. This gives the back of the leg its overall shape. Behind that, we also got the soleus muscle, which is visible from the front. Okay, feet might be one of the most confusing things that I've studied in a while. Kind of like hands and heads, it's pretty bony and structured, but at the same time it also has a bunch of curves and arches, and I didn't really feel like I could find consistent ways to measure the foot. I'm still gonna try my best to present to you what tips and tricks I could pick up for feet. For the overall size, fun thing that I learned is that when you hold your foot up to your forearm, it's likely gonna be about the same size. For the height, the foot can fit into 3 cubes next to each other. There's a curve here on the top, and halfway through the curve it starts curving down even more. You can see the foot curving a bit outwards, and then the toes will start to curve inwards a bit. Fun fact by the way, this isn't how they actually naturally curve. Toes also curve outwards, but this changes due to our use of shoes. I could be wrong though, somebody probably knows about this. Now for the toes, you know how each finger have like small little bones that can make the hand clench? Yeah, the feet got the same thing. Each toe will have 3 bones, except for the big toe, which is only made up by 2. A way I like to measure the big toe is to make it 1/4 of the overall size. That might seem like a lot, but that's because some of the first bone is actually covered by the skin. What about the length of the other toes? I don't know, just make it curve or something? There's so many different variations of toe length. Of course, some toe lengths are more common than the others. For the arches, there's an arch at the bottom, meant to give the feet more stability or something. The arch on the inside, the same side where the big toe is bigger than the arch on the outside. There's another arch on top. This arch is pretty visible when you shine light directly on the foot. At the bottom of the foot, there's a couple areas that protrude out the most. This is mostly due to fat. There's some on the heel, the base of the toes, and also some on the tip of the toes. Okay, so studying anatomy wasn't actually that bad. My only problem was the content creator side of it. There's just so much information and it was really damn tedious to do. So anatomy kinda sent me into a dry period. I wanted to make a short doujin, but I only got 4 out of 8 pages done. Reason number 1, I tried to rush it, which was definitely a mistake. It ended up with me getting demotivated, which led to me not putting a lot of effort into it, and also procrastinating a lot. Reason number 2, I tried doing a different style than my usual style, thinking that I could save time by making it a bit more simplified, which made me step into a zone that my skills weren't comfortable with. Also, I'm gonna be honest, these anatomy videos I've made kinda sucks. I didn't really enjoy making them, and I don't think that any of these 3 videos I would say is above a 6 out of 10 video. Alright, bye bye, I'm done with anatomy for a while, see ya.